Welcome to JuniorBots. We're so excited to kick off this year, our 13th year for RoboBots competition, our 6th year for JuniorBots. I am Teresa Simons, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of the Alliance for Working Together Foundation, or AWT, as we like to call it. AWT has a rich history in the community. In 2002, AWT started as an idea Roger Sustar had to bring area manufacturers together to discuss common issues they all faced. Finding skilled workers was quickly identified as one of the top challenges for our manufacturers. Promoting rewarding careers in manufacturing became the core mission of the organization. In 2012, the AWT Foundation became a 501c3 nonprofit. Since then, the AWT Foundation has grown to over 500 manufacturing companies, community organizations, and educational partners, all engaged in promoting rewarding manufacturing careers. We are fortunate in Northeast Ohio to be sitting in the midst of over 5,000 manufacturing companies that provide great jobs in safe, clean, and high-tech facilities. Connecting to these manufacturers opens up incredible opportunities for not only a job, but a fulfilling career with great wages, benefits, and room for continual growth. If you enjoy being part of something bigger than yourself, making things, solving problems, developing and designing for the future, there is so much potential for you in manufacturing. We want to thank everyone involved, our educators and advisors. We're so grateful for all of you who work on a regular basis with these amazing students and make this collaboration possible. A big thank you to our manufacturing partners. They are committed to promoting rewarding careers in manufacturing, working with their team on a weekly or bi-weekly basis from October to April. They expose these students to so many amazing opportunities. They give their time and invest in the future of these future innovators and our community. AWT JuniorBots was started to spark an interest in manufacturing. By exposing students to manufacturing at a young age, it opens up opportunities in manufacturing. Each team is connected with a manufacturing partner, and they work from October to April to build a 3-pound combat robot from a kit. To help keep your information organized and accessible throughout the season, AWT has created a drive folder for your documentation. All reference materials we discuss are also located in your folder. After the kickoff, your drive folder will be shared with you. If you do not receive that information, please reach out to us. On Saturday of the competition, teams compete in a 3-minute head-to-head match, and we run a double elimination round. Each team is judged on how well their bot performs during combat on Saturday.
Hello, this is Julie Hildebrand. I'm here to talk to you about how to do junior documentation. I've done it a couple years now, so we'll just talk about it. The first thing is team reflection. So this is answers to questions on the form. Basically, there's three beginning, middle, and end where you have to have your members fill it out. What I found the best thing to do is just print enough forms for each member to fill it out, and then put it into Word document later. You could also have them fill out the Word document right away. The second thing is team management. So this is basically meeting minutes. We had to say what we did, what decisions we made. There is a template for this and in the AWT Google Drive, so it's really easy. A couple things that I would say for this one is do not wait until the end. Make sure you do it every single week. It's so much easier, and it's really, really hard later on. A couple other tips are I have a laminated sheet every year for each team, and I have them fill it out every week. I take a picture of it, and then I put it into Word later. And then I have one member also do pictures that week, and I save those by date. So just in case I do it later, it's all in one place and I know where to find them. And this is also really good from a standpoint of, I use this form actually in my actual work. And also, we also use the exact same form for high school bots. So it's really getting those junior botters prepared for what's coming in future years. So you can see this is an example of meeting minutes, several pictures, what we discussed, what decisions were made, any topics that were covered, and who attended meetings. So that's really important as well. That one's a key to make sure and do every week because you don't remember later on. For the SWOT analysis, which means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, this is done kind of near the end. You know your design, you've kind of built it, you know your weaknesses, you know what's going on with your bot. So last couple of weeks before they're due, this is when you want to do this SWOT analysis and it's together as a team. So you get together the team during one of your meetings. It takes probably like 10-15 minutes, and have them describe the strengths, weaknesses of the weapon. And then for each of those strengths, talk about how the driver in particular should take advantage of the strengths of the bot while they're driving. And then for the weaknesses, how the driver should take advantage of the threats of other opponents and how to mitigate any weaknesses. And if there's time, it'd be great to get rid of any weaknesses if you can as well. I really strongly suggest doing this as a team. The driver really should be the primary person for it and really understand what's going on, because they're the one who has to execute this. And again, this is another great tool that I use in my work and also for high school bots to do higher level analysis of what your bot's about. And as you can see, this next slide shows a SWOT analysis that we did on one of our bots going forward. And you can see, what do your weaknesses, where, for strengths, just listing your strengths. What do you think is great about your bot? Weaknesses, where are you a little worried? And then for opportunities, how do you use your strengths against your opponent? And the threats are, what do you do? How can you fix any weaknesses? And if you can't fix them, how do you have your driver mitigate those weaknesses? This is JuniorBots Docs, and I'm Julie Hildebrand. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brandon Keeper. I'm a coach for the Mentor community team for JuniorBots. It's an exciting time of the year. I get excited, and the kids get excited because of the JuniorBots opportunity. I'm a big advocate of what AWT does. It really builds excitement and lets the students learn about manufacturing and STEM initiatives. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the design approach and philosophy that I take when doing JuniorBots with the students. The first thing I do is I sit down with them and I go through and we kind of talk about, the different strategies there is in robot combat. So, it's kind of, I always explain it, and you'll hear this a lot, it's a rock, paper, scissors strategy, right? You can have a control bot, you could go horizontal, you could go vertical. So it's really about what the kids want to do, right? Because it's important that they drive what they want to do, and that way they get excited about it. One of the ways to get them to decide what approach to go with is I'm a big advocate of watching things from the past, so watching JuniorBots and the RoboBots from the past years. Norwalk Havoc is a big one, BattleBots on TV. So all those, they can get an idea of what the different robots are about and what they would like. And then from there, we go into the design process once we kind of choose a general option. Once we decide a design option we want to move forward with, and then we have a bunch of design decisions. And for JuniorBots, I try to keep it simplified and break it down to just the base mechanical principles. So once we get past the type of robot, whether we decide it's a wedge, a vertical spinner, horizontal spinner, and by the way, for those that are just beginning, I would somewhat pursue a wedge bot because it's the simplest. Now, if you have other experience, engineering background, you could go for an active weapon, but wedge bots are the easiest to implement. Once you get there, you kind of decide, wheels. Do you want to go four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, protected or exposed wheels? There's not a right answer or wrong answer to any one of those. It's different, philosophies around and advantages, disadvantages between those. Once you go with the wheels, drive system, you're going to size the motors for the drives. It's a balance between speed and torque. One thing you got to keep in mind, especially for junior bots, it's a smaller cage. A lot of kids think, the faster the robot goes, the better. But you build a robot that goes 20 miles per hour in an 8-foot cage, there's not much reaction time. So I would generally tend towards, 5 miles per hour, 8 miles per hour is about the speed you want within that JuniorBots cage. Once you decide that, motor selection, brushed versus brushless, there's advantages, disadvantages to both. Brushed is a little more robust. There's more components out there for brushed. Brushed motors have a lower startup torque, so if you're planning on being a control bot and pushing, you might want to go brushed. However, brushless motors have a higher energy, power density, so you're going to ultimately be more powerful with a brushless setup. There are fewer components tailor-made for that, but they're starting to come on scene a lot more, even for the beetle weight class, the 3-pound weight class. Once you get by the drive system, then you're looking at your weapon system. So if you decided to run a weapon, lots of decisions there. First thing is, how much weapon energy do you want? Typically, general rule of thumb is about 150 joules per pound. So for this weight class JuniorBots, that'd put you in the 450, 500 joules. If you're running that, you're in good shape from your energy standpoint. And when I talk about energy, I like to relate it to things kids would know. So 100 mile per hour fastball is about 150 joules. A major league swing is about 500 joules. So these bots, and that's another thing for safety, you're stressing, these bots are putting out the same amount of energy as a major league person could swing a bat. So definitely dangerous. Safety comes first when you're starting to get into these weapons. All right, once you decide the energy that you want your weapon to be at, a lot of kids, again, the more energy the better. That's not always the case. You're going to put your energy back into you. Unfortunately, last year we found out the hard way. We broke our bot when we put all our energy back into ourselves. And we'll go into it later, but I didn't have the one spare part that I needed to continue on the competition. But once you determine the weapon energy, there's another thing called bite, right? It's how much the weapon can engage into the other opponent as efficiently as possible. So the faster you spin the weapon, the more energy you get. You get the square of the speed of the weapon. The energy goes up by the square of it. But, however, you get less bite. And what that means is you transfer less of the energy you build up, kinetic energy in your weapon, and transfer it to your opponent. So there's things you can do. You can go with a single tooth asymmetric blade. You can slow down RPM, or you can just go heavier, moment of inertia, bigger weapon, and slow it down to try to keep that same amount of energy. And then once you decide that, it's about weapon motor sizing. So there's spin up, speed time, and then the ultimate RPM you want to get to. So that basically helps you size the motor you need for combat. And then after that, it goes into the electrical system. That electrical system is going to be dictated a lot by what drive motors you selected and what weapon motors you selected. So there's number of cell counts. 3S would be your typical 12 volt. 4S goes to like 14.4. And then 5 and 6S. So for this competition, I believe they max out. The limit is 24 volts, so you don't want to go above that. And then in addition, there's the capacity of the battery as well, the milliamp hours. And there's, using calculators, you can understand how much capacity you're going to need in your batteries to last a 90-second match. Once we get some of those design decisions out of the way, then we look at our design tools. And again, I try to explain it on a very high level to the students, especially at the junior bot middle school level. We talk about gear ratios, low gear versus high gearing. Again, and it's going to be a speed to a torque preference. We talk about circuits, so very simple things, parallel and series wiring, what that does for the batteries. We talk about the energy calculations. We got into that for the weapon. And then we'll talk generally about material properties. What type of materials do you want to use where? For the frame, could be a different material than the armor you use. The weapon blade or system would be also a different material. We talk about things like strength, hardness, toughness, and where those need to be on various spots of the robot. One thing I emphasize a lot is to utilize calculators, especially for new teams. There's a lot of design calculators out there. You can look on the website I've got on this spreadsheet. And that tells you, there's weapon spin-up times and calculators, energy calculators for those, and it makes it simpler. And a lot of graphical things, so it's nice to see the kids plug in the numbers. They can see and play around with what changes for them. Another thing I've done in the past is I've reached out to the robot community, and these are guys that, even the BattleBot guys, the guys that go to Norwalk Havoc and compete for money, they're very friendly. They'll get back to you a lot of times. You'll send them an email, and if you have questions about how they do things, they have a ton of information out there on how they do things and what they've experienced and learned from the past. We also keep a BOM worksheet, a bill of material worksheet. That's all the components and the weight of the components. That's one thing where we start sizing and weighting up and making sure we don't go overweight and making sure we're not that far underweight. You really want to be right up until the weight limit to give yourself the full advantage. I use Excel for that. The SWOT analysis sheet is also a good thing. It's really just a basic really simplified system design FMEA, where we're just talking about the strengths and the weaknesses of the different bots. And we use that a lot on the upfront side of our decision of what type of bot do we want to run and design for. And then there's CAD, a lot of different CAD packages out there. Not a lot of the students don't run that. I'm able to do the CAD myself with their input. So once we get and make the design decisions, we move on to the manufacturing options. A ton of options out there. I like the newer manufacturing out there, 3D printing, additive manufacturing. So we definitely, I'd like to introduce the students to that. We definitely have 3D printed parts. The nice thing with the 3-pound beetle weight, you can have a lot of 3D printed parts on the robot. There are various materials. There's FDM out there. Some people have FDM printers at home. If you don't have one at home, there's a lot of maker spaces out there, so you could utilize those. There's SLS or MJF, like Multijet Fusion, HP. Again, that's one of my favorites. You can go to sites like Xyometry, Rapid Prototypes, and it's really not that costly to do. So if you don't have one, you can't make it to a makerspace, it's not that costly to have a few parts made via a vendor or service bureau. Another thing we like to use is laser or water jet for sheet material. And this is when you want to cut 2D parts. It's a great manufacturing process. You can cut 2D parts and bend them into 3D, or there's a lot of things like weapons that just stay 2D, and you can make them out of the materials that you need for the weapon system. Another place I'll throw out there is Send Cut Send. So they do very cheap laser cutting or water jetting. So it's a nice place to go to if you don't have access again to something that can do those types of materials or that type of equipment. There are local maker spaces. ThinkBox is great. Another one is Hive at Lakeland. So those are great places to go. They don't have some of the same capability of like a Send Cut Send for some materials, but some materials they do, and it's perfect. Prefabricated components, so these are purchased items, right? So there's lots of places I like to go for that. The MasterCard is a great one for bolts, fasteners, all miscellaneous stuff. You can get it next day. Very good. Servo City, more around robotics, motion control, so gears, pulleys, belts, bearing holders. FingerTech Robotics, same thing. FingerTech Robotics, they have more weapon system blades you can get. So off the shelf, the FingerTech beater bar is a popular one. A lot of people run it. They also have wheels. So we talked about the decision on the wheels. Whether you go foam or rubber. FingerTech's got the foam wheels. BaneBots is another good one for gearboxes. Their gearboxes are probably a little big for JuniorBots. A lot of high school RoboBots use a lot of BaneBot gears. Getting the wire connections, my favorite for the JuniorBot is an XT30, very robust, carries plenty of amps. You know, it's rated to 30 amps, but it'll carry 60 up to 90 amps, short-term use. There's the bullet connectors. There's soldering. I try to minimize soldering even myself. I'm not great at soldering, so I try to minimize it. And then one of the things that's helped out a lot for our team is these Wago connectors. You snap them open, lever connectors, and you push it in the wire and you close it. I got them for prototyping, but I found out they were robust enough for combat. We've never had any of them pop out or anything. And you can quickly change over and replace parts with these Wago connectors. And then I didn't want to leave out traditional manufacturing. So still a lot of items could be either milled, you got to use drills, Allen wrenches, screwdrivers, soldering iron, saws, sanders. So for the JuniorBots, there are some definitely milling. We get into CNC routers, and you can find those again at makerspaces. So if you want some 2.5D work in material, you know, CNC router is a great way to go. And then last but not least, I wanted to talk about the day of the competition. First and foremost, kind of the safety around it. So the PPE, really focus, making sure you have the safety glasses, making sure you have your cut-resistant gloves, making sure you have the weapon restraints for your bot, the box. One thing, you know, I forget to mention, you know, a lot of these are kids that aren't accustomed to manufacturing locations or spaces. So last year, one of the students showed up in sandals, and I'm like, ooh, you know, that's an open-toed shoe. You know, it didn't cross my mind to tell them about it, but that's one thing, you know, we learned. So just try to remember, you know, what you would wear maybe in a manufacturing floor. Try to make sure that the students will be wearing that those similar items. Tools, so you definitely want to bring all the tools. So every tool that you can bring that you use to assemble your bot and put it together, try to bring that. And in addition, you know, you're going to be making some triage changes, right? You're going to have your bot obliterated, and you're going to have to try to repair it in time for the next fight in some cases. So tape, hot melt glue, Dremel, you might have to cut things, scissors. So anything that could be used, quick emergency repairs, anything you can think of. And you might not, as a first team, think of everything, but the nice thing about it, again, this community, very friendly. Other teams, you know, we've gone to the past, we've used other teams' tools, and they've used our tools. So it's a little bit of a community, and it's great to see, you know, that even the day of the competition, when they are your competition in the box, but they're very friendly outside of the box and lend a helping hand. And then spare parts, everything you think that can break could break, so try to bring all those spare parts. Unfortunately, I touched on it earlier. We had a situation last year as I had a plethora of spare parts, but the one thing that broke, our main carbon fiber shaft broke, and I didn't have a spare, so we weren't able to continue on with the competition. Definitely will not repeat that this year. And then as far as batteries and chargers, have extra batteries. So not only batteries for your bot, but remember the batteries for your transmitter. Have extra batteries available. Have the chargers, and if possible, bring extension cords. But again, a lot of teams bring extension cords, and usually there's a little battery charging station that's made during the day of the competition.
Competition day is a fun and engaging time. Energy levels are running high. Remember to be safe and have fun and show good sportsmanship. It is impressive to see teams help each other over the course of the day. It's a great environment of friendly competition.